The Bloodline breaks up. Ezekiel removed from WWE's internal roster. Bayley threatens Sasha Banks and Naomi. Alexa Bliss undergoes an interesting character change. Return talks between WWE and Bray Wyatt go horribly wrong. Jake Paul threatens Roman Reigns. Let's jump right in. Ezekiel removed from WWE's internal roster. A report has revealed that WWE has removed Ezekiel from their internal talent roster. Ezekiel debuted in WWE in April this year and claimed to be Elias' younger brother. The Raw superstar entered into a feud with Kevin Owens, who refused to believe that Ezekiel was Elias' brother and that he was Elias. A recent report by PW Insider disclosed that after being written off the TV, Ezekiel may no longer appear on the programming. Elias has reportedly replaced Ezekiel last week on the internal talent roster. Ezekiel is no longer listed internally on the WWE's roster, PWInsider.com has confirmed. The character was replaced last week with his original persona, Ezekiel's older brother Elias. It would appear that, as many of you have suspected, that when the time comes, the Elias character will be returning to the Raw roster while Ezekiel, who was written out due to injuries, will fade into the darkness, said the report. Ezekiel's last match on Raw was against Kevin Owens, where he was given a beatdown by the former Universal Champion. Ezekiel had to be stretchered out of the arena that night. The week after being attacked by Owens on Raw, there was an update on Ezekiel's condition. Ezekiel appeared to be in the hospital, wearing a neck brace and surrounded by his family, which included his brothers Elias and Elrod, his father Ernie Jr., as well as a lady who could be Ezekiel's mother. With Triple H shaking things up and bringing back old characters, it remains to be seen if Ezekiel will return to the company in the future or if the character will be shelved to bring back Elias. Who would you like to see on Raw, Ezekiel or Elias? Comment below. Bayley threatens Sasha Banks and Naomi. Bayley sent out a stern warning to Sasha Banks and Naomi in a recent interview. Sasha Banks and Naomi have made lots of public appearances ever since their controversial walkout from WWE Raw. They recently walked on the ramp for New York Fashion Week. Their close friend and fellow wrestler Bayley have been spotted with them on a bunch of occasions as well. The role model recently spoke within the Click and opened up about Banks and Naomi's Raw walkout. She also ended up sending a warning to the former WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Here are her full comments. If they ever do return, I'm just going to kick their A. They might be scared to come back for me. You might want to stay on the runway, she said. The boss and the role model aren't exactly strangers. The duo have been close friends for a long time now. Banks and Bayley have faced off on several occasions on WWE TV and have also been portrayed as on-screen friends. The two stars were crowned the very first WWE Women's Tag Team Champions in early 2019. In late 2020, Bayley opened up about not needing Banks anymore and wanting to establish her own legacy. I don't want to look back at my career and be like, Bayley needed Sasha Banks, or Bayley would have been nothing without Sasha Banks. Bayley's never had a good match without Sasha. I just don't want that hanging over my head forever. So it really is like evolving, getting my wings, and finally, just being like, I love you, but I don't need you anymore. Thank you very much. It's time to move on, she said. Bayley is currently one of the biggest heels on the WWE roster. If Banks and Naomi end up returning to WWE, fans would love to see them engage in a feud with Damage Control. What do you think of Bayley's threat? Is she planting the seeds for a future rivalry with Banks? Sound off in the comments section below. Alexa Bliss undergoes an interesting character change. Monday Night Raw star Alexa Bliss is reportedly set to undergo a character change again. A multi-time women's champion, Bliss had a dark supernatural character during her alliance with the Fiend Bray Wyatt last year. Even after the latter's release, Bliss, accompanied by her creepy doll Lily, kept portraying the sinister character. However, she took a hiatus and returned to WWE earlier this year with a new babyface character and theme music. According to a new report by Zero News, Alexa Bliss is again set to have a character change. The report adds that WWE is again planning to give her a darker persona. The goddess won over the hearts of fans and critics with her performance during the alliance with The Fiend. Bliss did complete justice to her supernatural character and was highly praised for its portrayal. After Bray Wyatt's release, there were divided opinions about WWE continuing with the supernatural character of Bliss. While some felt it didn't fit well after The Fiend's departure, others still loved it. The Raw star recently responded to a fan on Twitter, revealing that she also misses her dark character. Over the last couple of months, Alexa Bliss has allied with former Royal Rumble winner Asuka. The two recently teamed up with Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair at WWE Clash at the Castle to take on the trio of Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai, but lost to them. The goddess recently also teased chasing the Raw Women's title, but there is no confirmation yet on when, if she will challenge Bianca Belair. It is to be seen how WWE brings back her dark persona and how the fans react to it. With the rumors of Bray Wyatt possibly returning to WWE, could we see a reunion of The Fiend and Dark Bliss? Sound off in the comments below. Return talks between WWE and Bray Wyatt go horribly wrong. There has been a barrage of rumors suggesting Bray Wyatt's imminent return to WWE. However, the process seems to be taking a long time and nothing has been finalized yet. One of the reasons for the delay was that the talks between WWE and Wyatt stalled, likely due to his high asking price. Former Universal Champion Bray Wyatt was surprisingly released by the company last year, despite being one of the top merchandise sellers. It has been speculated that Wyatt did not get along well with Vince McMahon, which was one of the reasons why he was let go. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter has revealed that talks between WWE and Wyatt had stalled. However, the company is interested in bringing the Eater of Worlds back. He also reported that Bray Wyatt has a high asking rate, which is why other companies were not interested in signing him. Regarding talk of Wyatt returning, there were definitely talks in that direction. At one point the talk stalled, but it was said it was not a dead issue. Talks with him outside WWE had also stalled in the past, as his asking price was well above what other companies were willing to pay. The report also stated that Wyatt, along with Ronda Rousey and Randy Orton, were only behind Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar in terms of pay. Following his release, it was expected that he would join AEW, but he chose to focus on a career in Hollywood instead. When he was last in WWE, the belief was that behind Reigns and Lesnar, that the tier of he, Orton and Rousey were the highest paid pro wrestlers in the world, Meltzer stated. It isn't known what Wyatt's asking price from WWE is. However, it is certain that the Eater of Worlds will want to come back in the same top position that he left in. Triple H has praised Bray Wyatt on multiple occasions, and the game is believed to be keen to bring Wyatt back to WWE. Jake Paul threatens Roman Reigns. YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul made a bold claim about the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns and what Logan Paul would do to him. On this week's SmackDown, Logan Paul came out and called out the Tribal Chief. His promo segment was interrupted by the Weissman Paul Heyman in the Bloodline. During the segment, Heyman mentioned Logan's accolades and also mentioned his brother's upcoming boxing match against former UFC middleweight champion Anderson the Spider Silva. The segment came to an end with the Maverick sucker punching Sami Zayn and exiting the ring. Logan's younger brother Jake Paul took to Twitter to respond to Paul Heyman. The problem child claimed that his brother would easily knock out the head of the table Roman Reigns. No disrespect Heyman, but Logan would KO your boy Roman Reigns easy. Jake Paul tweeted, "The founder of MVP Boxing is one of the biggest villains on social media. While some people do support him, most tend to despise him. People wish to see Logan reciprocate the love and support he receives from his brother." One person agreed with Jake, mentioning Logan's wrestling record in both high school and college. Some non-wrestling watchers tried their best to remind the problem child that professional wrestling is scripted. Eventually, the pro wrestling fans barged in its defense. Some claimed Jake's fights were also as scripted as WWE. People predicted that at WWE Crown Jewel the Tribal Chief will defeat the Maverick. Some of the Twitter users mocked the problem child and his brother, calling them names, and also claimed that the Paul brothers cannot win a fight without fixing it in advance. Boxing fans joined in on the conversation, promoting Jake's next fight, and also suggested a couple of opponents for him. Logan Paul called out Roman Reigns to a press conference in Las Vegas, Nevada, tomorrow. Will the problem child also be there? Tune in to find out. Do you think the YouTube sensation could knock out the Tribal Chief? Let us know in the comments section below. The Bloodline breaks up. The WWE Universe did not hold back after a backstage segment on SmackDown in which Solo Sikoa picked Sami Zayn over Jey Uso. The show's opening segment saw Logan Paul trash talk Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman handle it on behalf of the Tribal Chief. Sami Zayn also inserted himself into the conversation and got punched by Paul. This caused Jey Uso to burst into laughter before he joined Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa in threatening Paul. Soon, Ricochet walked out for his match against Zayn. Like other Bloodline members, Jey Uso tried to attack Ricochet behind the official's back but got carried away with his plans. At one point, the honorary Uso had Ricochet's shoulders pinned to the mat for almost 5 seconds, but the referee was preoccupied with Jey Uso and did not count the pinfall. This also led to a brief standoff between Zayn and one half of the tag team champions. In the end, the one and only picked up a big win over Sami Zayn in front of the Bloodline. Later in the show, Solo Sikoa was preparing to defend his NXT North American title against Madcap Moss when Jey Uso offered to back him up. The NXT North American champion called out Jey Uso for being off his game and asked Sami Zayn to accompany him. The backstage segment sparked a brutal meme fest on Twitter as WWE fans hilariously trolled Jey for not being his brother's first choice. Several fans noted that one half of the Usos evident disgust for the honorary Uso, while others enjoyed Zayn getting the preferential treatment. But everyone found common ground in appreciating the storyline involving Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and the rest of the Bloodline. The newly crowned NXT North American champion put his title on the line tonight in a match against Madcap Moss. Solo Sikoa's decision to bring Sami Zayn with him instead of his brothers was surprising, but it paid off well. The honorary Uso helped turn the match in Sikoa's favor every time Madcap Moss managed to get the upper hand. Zayn influenced the decision after pulling Sikoa out of harm's way and keeping Moss occupied with the chase until the champion got back on his feet. In the end, Sikoa successfully defended the NXT North American Championship and celebrated with Sami Zayn as the crowd cheered for them. Zayn has earned the trust of the Bloodline's newest member. However, Sikoa's decision on tonight's show will surely elicit an exciting response from Jey Uso on WWE SmackDown next week. It remains to be seen what is next in this compelling storyline. What did you make of Solo Sikoa choosing Sami Zayn over his brothers? Let us know in the comments section below.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing